I saw my son watching something private that night. What shocked me wasn't the screen. It was the forbidden desire stirring deep within me. Welcome to my channel. Today we explore a story of forbidden love and hidden desires. Have you ever faced a situation where emotions blur the lines between right and wrong? Follow Ellie and Kieran, a mother and son caught in a web of passion and secrecy. Will they find a way to navigate their feelings, or will their choices tear them apart? Stay tuned to see how their journey unfolds. Don't forget to subscribe for more compelling stories. Your support keeps me motivated to bring you thought-provoking content. Let's dive in. The city of Eldermere was a labyrinth of steel and glass, its skyline a jagged silhouette against the night sky. Neon lights flickered like distant stars, casting a kaleidoscope of colors onto the wet pavement below. From her 12th-floor apartment, Eleanor, Ellie, Marlowe watched the world go by, her reflection faintly visible in the window. The hum of the city was a constant companion, a reminder of the countless lives intersecting just beyond her reach. Ellie was a woman in her early 40s, with a sharp mind and a heart that had seen its share of scars. Her auburn hair, streaked with strands of silver, framed a face that still carried traces of youthful beauty. But tonight, her thoughts were far from her own reflection. They were with her son, Kieran Marlowe, who had returned home after graduating from college. Kieran was her pride and joy, a young man with his father's piercing green eyes and her own stubborn determination. But since his return, something had shifted between them. The easy camaraderie they once shared had been replaced by an unspoken tension, a distance that Ellie couldn't quite bridge. It was past midnight when Ellie found herself wandering the dimly lit hallway of their apartment. The air was thick with the scent of rain, a storm having rolled in earlier that evening, and the faint aroma of Kieran's cologne, a mix of sandalwood and bergamot that lingered in the air like a ghost. The apartment was quiet, save for the occasional creak of the old wooden floors and the distant hum of the city outside. The storm had left the world feeling raw and exposed, as if the heavens themselves were mirroring the turmoil brewing within Ellie. She paused outside Kieran's door, which was slightly ajar, a sliver of light spilling into the corridor. Her heart pounded in her chest, each beat echoing in her ears like a drum. She told herself she was just checking on him, making sure he was okay. But deep down, she knew it was more than that. There was a restlessness in her, a gnawing ache that had been growing since Kieran had returned home. She couldn't quite put it into words, but it was there, lurking in the shadows of her mind, waiting to be acknowledged. Ellie pushed the door open, her breath catching in her throat as she stepped inside. The room was bathed in the soft, flickering glow of Kieran's laptop, the screen casting an eerie light on his face. He was seated on the edge of his bed, his posture rigid, his attention riveted to the screen. The sound of muffled moans and the rhythmic slapping of skin on skin filled the air, and Ellie's gaze was drawn to the screen, where a scene of raw passion unfolded. She should have turned away. She should have retreated to the safety of her own room, pretended she had seen nothing. But she couldn't. She was rooted to the spot, her eyes locked on the screen, her mind racing with a mix of shock and something she couldn't quite name. It was as if she had stumbled upon a secret, a hidden part of Kieran's life that she was never meant to see. And yet, she couldn't look away. Kieran's hand moved beneath the hem of his sweatpants, his breathing shallow and uneven. Ellie's cheeks burned with shame, but there was something else, a flicker of curiosity, a forbidden thrill that sent a jolt of electricity through her veins. It was a feeling she hadn't experienced in years, one that both terrified and exhilarated her. She told herself it was wrong, that she should leave, but her body refused to obey. The sound of the laptop snapping shut shattered the silence, and Ellie's attention snapped back to her son. Kieran spun around, his eyes wide with shock and embarrassment, the color draining from his face as he realized he had been caught in such a compromising position. "Mom," he stammered, his voice a strangled whisper. I didn't hear you come in." Ellie's mind raced, trying to find the right words, but all she could manage was a weak, "I'm sorry, Kieran. I didn't mean to intrude. I wanted to check on you." The words hung heavy in the air between them, a tacit acknowledgement of the boundary they had both crossed. Kieran's expression softened slightly, relief mingling with residual embarrassment as he realized that his mother wasn't going to demand answers or reprimand him for his private actions. "It's okay, Mom," he said, his voice steadier now. "I should have been more careful. I'm sorry you had to see that." Ellie nodded, offering him a weak smile as she backed out of the room, pulling the door shut behind her. But as she made her way back to her own bed, the images from the laptop screen refused to fade, replaying themselves in her mind's eye with unsettling clarity. She lay down, staring up at the ceiling, her heart still pounding in her chest. The storm outside had subsided, but the tempest within her was just beginning. The days that followed were a blur of awkward silences and stolen glances. Ellie tried to convince herself that what she had seen was nothing more than a mother's concern for her son. But the memory of that night lingered, haunting her thoughts and dreams. She found herself watching Kieran more closely, noting the way his muscles rippled beneath his shirt, the way his laughter sent a shiver down her spine. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, Ellie finally broke the silence. "Kieran, we need to talk," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. Kieran looked at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of fear and anticipation. "About what, Mom?" Ellie took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. "About us. About what's happening between us. I can't ignore it anymore." Kieran's eyes widened, but he didn't interrupt. He simply nodded, urging her to continue. "I know this is wrong, Kieran. I know it goes against everything we've been taught. But I can't deny what I feel. And I think you feel it too." Kieran's expression softened, and for the first time, Ellie saw the vulnerability in his eyes. "I do, Mom. I've been trying to fight it, but I can't. I don't want to." Ellie placed her hand on Kieran's, feeling the warmth of his skin. "What are we going to do, Kieran? We can't keep living like this." Kieran looked down at their hands, then back up at her, his gaze steady and resolute. "Mom, I don't know what we should do. But I know I don't want to lose you. I don't want to lose something this important." Tears welled up in Ellie's eyes, spilling over onto her cheeks. She knew they were standing on the edge of a decision that would change their lives forever. But she also knew she couldn't keep living in denial and pain. "Kieran, I love you. I love you more than anything in this world. And I don't want to lose you." Kieran reached up to wipe her tears, his touch gentle and full of affection. "Mom, I love you too. And I don't want to lose you either. But we have to find a way to deal with this. We have to find a way to live with it." Ellie nodded, feeling a strange sense of relief wash over her. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but she also knew they would face it together. "We'll find a way, Kieran. We'll find a way to live with this." Kieran smiled, a smile full of hope and love. "Yes, Mom. We'll find a way." In that moment, the space between them seemed to shrink. Ellie could feel Kieran's breath, warm and close. She looked into his eyes and saw the understanding and desire she had never noticed before. Kieran looked back at her, his gaze conflicted but unable to hide his true feelings. "Kieran," Ellie whispered, her voice trembling but resolute. "I can't keep pretending nothing is happening. I need you. I need you in a way I can't explain." Kieran didn't say anything, but he leaned in, the distance between them disappearing. Ellie felt his breath on her skin, and then, as if pulled by an invisible force, their lips met in a kiss that was soft but filled with passion. The kiss was like a wave, washing away all thoughts and worries. Ellie felt herself sinking into the sensation, a feeling she had long forgotten. Kieran's hand cupped her cheek, his touch gentle but full of longing. They deepened the kiss, every boundary between mother and son dissolving, leaving only two people seeking connection and love. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless, their eyes filled with conflict but unable to deny the truth of what had just happened. Ellie placed a hand on her chest, feeling her heart race. "Kieran," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "What have we done?" Kieran looked at her, his gaze steady. "Mom, we can't go back now. But I don't regret it. I love you and I want to be with you like this." Tears streamed down Ellie's face. She knew they had crossed a line they could never uncross, but she also knew she couldn't deny her feelings for Kieran. "I love you too, Kieran. And I don't want to lose you." They held each other tightly, feeling the warmth and safety in each other's arms. No matter what challenges lay ahead, they knew they would face them together. And in that moment, that was all they needed. Their relationship took on a new dimension, one that was both exhilarating and terrifying. It was as if they had stepped into a world where the rules no longer applied, where the boundaries between mother and son had blurred into something unrecognizable. Ellie found herself drawn to Kieran in ways she had never imagined, her maternal love intertwining with a passion that was both forbidden and intoxicating. It was a dangerous dance, one that left her breathless and aching for more. They became each other's confidants, sharing secrets and desires they had never dared to voice. In the quiet hours of the night, when the world outside their apartment was asleep, they would sit together on the couch, their bodies close but not touching, and talk about everything and nothing. Ellie would tell Kieran about her dreams and fears, about the loneliness that had plagued her since her husband left. And Kieran, in turn, would share his own struggles, his uncertainty about the future, his fears of failure, and his longing for something more. But their newfound connection came with a price. The world outside their apartment was a constant reminder of the boundaries they had crossed. Friends and family began to notice the change in their dynamic, their questions growing more probing and insistent. Ellie's sister Maggie was the first to comment. "You and Kieran seem closer lately," she said one afternoon over coffee. Her tone casual but her eyes sharp with curiosity. "Is everything okay?" Ellie forced a smile, her heart pounding in her chest. "Of course," she replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. "We've just been spending more time together, that's all." But Maggie wasn't convinced. "Just be careful, Ellie," she said, her gaze lingering on her sister's face. "You know how people talk." Ellie nodded, but the warning stayed with her, a constant reminder of the risks they were taking. She knew that Maggie was right, that their relationship was a powder keg waiting to explode. But she couldn't bring herself to care. Not when Kieran's touch sent shivers down her spine. Not when his laughter filled her with a warmth she hadn't felt in years. The pressure didn't stop with family. At work, Ellie's boss, Mr. Thompson, began to notice a change in her demeanor. "You seem happier lately," he said one afternoon, his tone casual but his eyes sharp with curiosity. "Is there something you're not telling us?" Ellie forced a laugh, her heart pounding in her chest. "No, nothing like that," she replied, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. "I've just been enjoying life, that's all." But Mr. Thompson wasn't convinced. "Just be careful, Ellie," he said, his gaze lingering on her face. "You know how people talk." Ellie nodded, but the warning stayed with her, a constant reminder of the risks they were taking. She knew that Mr. Thompson was right, that their relationship was a powder keg waiting to explode. But she couldn't bring herself to care. Not when Kieran's touch sent shivers down her spine. Not when his laughter filled her with a warmth she hadn't felt in years. Kieran, too, felt the weight of their secret. He had always been close to his mother, but this was different. This was something deeper, something more primal. He found himself watching her when she wasn't looking, noting the way her hair caught the light, the way her lips curved when she smiled. He knew it was wrong, knew that they were playing with fire, but he couldn't help himself. She was his mother, yes, but she was also the most beautiful woman he had ever known. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, Ellie turned to Kieran, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and longing. "Kieran," she said, her voice trembling with emotion, "we can't keep doing this. Someone is going to find out." Kieran reached out, his hand brushing against hers. "I know," he said, his voice low and steady, "but I don't care. I don't care what anyone thinks. I just want to be with you." Ellie's heart clenched at his words, a mixture of relief and guilt washing over her. She wanted to believe him, wanted to believe that they could make this work. But deep down, she knew that it was only a matter of time before their secret was exposed. And that brings us to the end of today's story. What do you think about Ellie and Kieran's journey? Did they make the right choices, or were they doomed from the start? Love, boundaries, and the complexities of human emotions, this story leaves us with so much to reflect on. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below sharing your feelings, opinions, or even your own experiences. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to stay tuned for more gripping stories like this one. Your support means the world to me and keeps me motivated to bring you even more thought-provoking content. Thank you for listening until the very end. Until next time, take care and keep exploring the depths of the human heart.